All right, we're finishing up Unit 5, and I've tried to make this video, I think, 5 times now. So that just tells you how important it is, and I'm not going to give up. So I'm actually going to look back at the same story problem we've been working with the whole time, but now I'm going to show you how to do it faster. You might have noticed there's a lot of work to show, and there's a lot of places you can make mistakes. I'm particularly thinking about those formulas where we have the square root and we have a fraction plus another fraction, and it's probably driving me crazy. So I'm going to show you how to do it all on the calculator. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Ms. Curtis, why did you wait until the very last day to tell us? And I actually have 2 reasons. Reason number 1, when you do it by hand, you see how it all works. And that's really important. Otherwise, you're going to have a harder time explaining, and that's a lot of what the AP questions are about, explaining what we're doing. So I think that's really important. And my second reason is, on any test, including the AP exam, you would have to show your work, which means writing out all those formulas like I've shown you. So important, okay? Really important. But now I'm going to show you all my secrets and my tricks. So like I said, we're going to do the same story problem. I'm going to do both the hypothesis test and the confidence interval. I'll show you how quickly I'm able to at least get the answers, not necessarily write them all down. And these are the things that are really important that you need for your calculator. You need to have your p-hat, and sorry, I didn't get that written down. You need to have your p-hat 1 and your p-hat 2. Notice I left them in fraction form. Not as decimals. Like, that's what I want. All right, and then once I have that, I pull out my handy-dandy calculator. I go to the Stat menu, and we've used Calculate before. That's our 1-bar stats. We've used it for a LinReg. We're going to actually scroll over to Tests. I don't know, maybe you noticed this as you're reading your textbook already, but here it is. Every hypothesis test and confidence interval we do in this class can actually be done in your calculator. I know, I'm waiting for the groans and the disappointment. Be really careful, though, that you correctly identify what we're doing. So back in chapter, I think it was 20, we learned a hypothesis test. That's a 1 proportion z-test, so make sure you choose the correct item. What I'm going to show you today is the 2 proportion z-test, because we have 2 groups, 2 proportions. So I'll go ahead and push enter on number 6. And then where it has this x1, marker's giving me a little bit of grief, where it has this x1 and x2, let's edit this back to handy-dandy calculator. All right, so here I'm trying to pull up my handy-dandy calculator again. Here where it has this x1 and x2, that's where you're going to put in the values for your p1 hat. Ooh, sorry, that's really weird to read on the blue screen. Remember we had this like 46 over 143? Right, this is your n, because right, we know n, that's our sample size. And x can be thought of as like the number of successes. Or if you want to just picture it as top and bottom of the fraction, you can do that. So I'm going to put in 46 over 143. And then my second group was 30 over 151. Then where we have the P1 and our relationship to P2, that comes from our alternative hypothesis. So just to like remind you when we did that, it's a little bit ago, it was right here. We had this P1 is greater than P2. So when I put that in my calculator, I want to make sure I select P1 greater than P2. And if I push calculate, here we go. Okay, Ms. Curtis, what is all this? Like, this is awesome. This is your z-score. You have to write that down. Like, that's part of showing your work. This is your p-value. That's the one that tells us, right, is it bigger or smaller than alpha? You might recognize these. Those are the p-hats in decimal form. But this is my personal favorite. Remember when we worked so hard to figure out that whole pooled relationship to use in our standard error equation? It's right there. Wow. Okay. Time saver. Time saver. Okay, and then it says we can scroll down. We just see the sample size there. All right, so if we look back at our results, like I think this is really cool. There's that z-score. Yay! Look, we were like really close on our p-value. That's pretty similar. So that to me is really exciting. What a time saver. You're still going to have to write out your hypotheses. You're still going to have to write out your conditions. But I think this calculator could save you some time on your, what am I trying to say here, mechanics. So come on, check that out. 2.40, we got 2.41. That's a really darn close. Okay, the other thing that I asked you to do was create a confidence interval. So I'm going to show you that on the calculator just real quick. If we go to stats and we go to tests, there's actually an arrow indicating that there are more choices. So I'm going to scroll down, and you'll notice there's a 2 proportion Z interval. That's what I want for a confidence interval. Now this is my favorite. My calculator remembered the numbers that I put in just a moment ago. So it's already like set, ready to go. If you needed, you could type them in. C-level, confidence level, make sure it says a decimal, so 95%. And then I push calculate. And check it out. This that we have right on top, oops, my apologies. This right on top, that's our confidence interval, 0.02 to 0.22. Again, it gives us our p-hats in decimal form and our sample sizes, but we already knew those. So real exciting thing. Here's when we did it by hand. We got 0.02 and 0.22. Compare that with our calculator results on that top line. That's pretty darn close. The calculator is actually more accurate. We rounded a little bit as we worked, and so the calculator results are actually closer. So I hope that you will play around with the calculator. Use your textbook. Remember, your textbook has those really awesome TI helps, or I don't know, maybe they're called TI hints. But in the book, some great resources to help you remember. And you could also go back and look at chapters 19 to see how to do a 1 proportion Z interval on the calculator. And chapter 20 will reference how to do a 1 proportion Z test.